So here's the deal. It all started last Thursday right around lunchtime. I'm just sitting there at my desk, minding my own business and working through a turkey sandwich, when my phone starts buzzing. It was a text from Jessica. We'd been together for 4 years, and she'd been living in my house for 2 of those, so I figured it was just something about dinner. Instead, I get hit with this, "Robert, I have to tell you something. I'm moving on, and I'm leaving you for Douglas. He's got everything you don't." She went on about how he's this high-powered, ambitious partner at a law firm called Morrison & Associates, and how he's going to provide the kind of lifestyle she actually deserves. She told me not to even try reaching out and said she'd be by to grab her stuff over the weekend. I had to read that message 3 times just to make sure I wasn't dreaming. 4 years of my life, and she ends it over a text for her boss? I already knew the guy. Jessica started working as a paralegal for him about 1.5 years ago, and man, she wouldn't shut up about him. It was always Douglas has a Tesla, or Douglas lives up in the hills, or Douglas took us all to this incredibly fancy steakhouse. I'd actually met the guy once at their firm's Christmas party. He was in his 50s, married with 3 kids, and had a handshake that felt like a cold, wet fish. His wife, Eleanor, was actually really sweet. She spent half the night telling me all about her charity work while Douglas just kept topping off Jessica's wine glass. My response to her life-changing text? I just typed back, "Good luck." Then I got to work. See, Jessica wasn't exactly a criminal mastermind. I'd given her an iPad for her birthday, and it was still logged into my iCloud account, which meant every single one of her messages was syncing right to me. I spent the next bit of time scrolling through 6 months of history between her and Douglas. It started out professional enough, then got flirty, and then it turned into stuff and photos I really wish I hadn't seen. They were planning for the day I'd find out, and talking about what they'd do after his divorce was final. But here's the kicker. Douglas had 0 plans to actually leave his wife. He said it point blank in the texts, telling Jessica that Eleanor could never find out because he'd lose half his partnership, the house, and custody of the kids. While he was busy protecting his assets, Jessica was telling her friends she was going to be the next Mrs. Morrison and browsing for engagement rings. I just sat there, my sandwich totally forgotten, looking at the evidence of her life falling apart before she even knew it. So I made a choice. First, I called my buddy Anthony, he's a property lawyer, to make sure I was covered legally since she'd been living at my place. He told me that since she'd officially stated she was leaving of her own will, I should just document everything and change the locks the second her stuff was out. I spent the next 2 hours screenshotted every text, photo, and timestamp, then backed it all up to a secure cloud folder. I looked up the firm's directory and found Eleanor's name. She was the director of community outreach. They looked like the perfect power couple on social media. Vacations in Europe, 25th anniversary photos, the whole 9 yards. I waited until I knew Jessica was right in the middle of her workday, probably sitting a few feet away from Douglas, and then I called Eleanor. I told her, "Mrs. Morrison, my name is Robert Caldwell. I'm sorry to do this, but there's something you need to know about your husband." After a long silence, she asked who I was. I told her my girlfriend, Jessica Ramirez, worked for her husband and had just dumped me for him. Her voice turned to absolute steel. She asked for proof. I sent over the 6 months of records, and 20 minutes later she called me back. We talked for an hour. She was calm, asking for dates and specifics. She thanked me and asked if I could keep quiet so she could handle it her way. I told her that was the plan. Friday morning, I went to work like nothing was wrong. Around 10 a.m., Jessica texts me asking why I'm not fighting for us. An hour later, she's asking if I'm really just letting her go after 4 years. Then at noon, she tries to rub it in. "Douglas is taking me to Chez Laurent for lunch. You know, that place you said was too expensive for my birthday?" That one stung, I won't lie. But then I remembered the texts where she called me boring and a placeholder until someone better came along. Around 2 p.m., the dam finally broke. She called me 17 times in 5 minutes. My phone was blowing up with texts blaming me for everything. It turns out Eleanor didn't just file for divorce. She hired the meanest lawyer in the state and walked right into a partners meeting to announce the affair to the whole room. She threatened a sexual harassment suit against the firm, showing proof they'd used company cards for hotel rooms and sent explicit texts on company time. The firm went into full-blown panic mode. Douglas was suspended immediately, and Jessica was escorted out of the building with her life in a cardboard box. By 3 p.m., she was sobbing in her car, begging me to take her back and claiming Douglas had lied to her. I just texted her back, "You have until Sunday at noon to get your things. Come alone." Saturday morning, she showed up with a U-Haul and her sister, Monica. I'd already packed her stuff and put it in the garage, and I'd changed the locks the night before. Monica tried to tell me that people make mistakes and asked if I was really throwing away 4 years. I told her I wasn't throwing it away. I was just cleaning up the mess Jessica made. Jessica was a total wreck. Sweatpants, messy hair, mascara running down her face. A far cry from the future Mrs. Morrison. She thought she was 48 hours ago. She begged to talk in private, but I told her no. She just stood there crying, saying she'd ruined everything and that Douglas wouldn't even pick up the phone. She stood there in my garage, looking like her whole world had just caved in. She started crying about how the firm had canned her and how Eleanor Morrison was suing her for alienation of affection. She actually had the nerve to say, "I could lose everything," like I was supposed to feel bad for her. I just looked at her and said, "Sounds like a you problem to me." She acted all shocked, asking how I could be so cold. That's when I pulled out my phone. I didn't say a word. I just read back one of the texts she'd sent Douglas. "Robert is so pathetic. He actually thinks I love him. He's just a safe bet while I figure out my real future." The color drained right out of her face. She stammered, You read our messages?" I told her straight up, that iPad I bought her was still synced to my account. She wasn't nearly as clever as she thought she was. Her sister Monica, who'd been giving me the side eye the whole time, suddenly turned on Jessica. She asked her point blank if it was true, if she'd really said those things about me. Jessica couldn't even look her in the eye. They finished loading the U-Haul in total silence. As she was walking away, Jessica tried one last time, saying, "I loved you. I didn't buy it for a second." I told her, "No, you loved the stability I gave you. You loved the house, the paid bills, and having someone to lean on while you went fishing for a bigger catch. Turns out your big fish was already caught by someone much smarter than you." The next few days were a whirlwind. Word travels fast, and pretty soon everyone we knew was talking. Some people were genuinely sorry. Others just wanted the tea. Her best friend Valerie actually called me to say she'd tried to warn Jessica. Apparently, Douglas was a serial offender at the firm. He'd pick a new paralegal every few years, and Eleanor would usually pay them to disappear. But not this time. Eleanor had finally reached her breaking point and was stripping him of everything he owned. Of course, Jessica tried to flip the script on social media. She started telling anyone who would listen that I was controlling and abusive, and that Douglas had just taken advantage of her. She was playing the victim card hard. But I had the receipts. When her cousin went on Facebook calling me a monster, I just dropped 3 screenshots in the comments. One of Jessica bragging about a $2,000 purse Douglas bought her, one where she talked about being a trophy wife, and another where she joked about me being clueless while she was out with him. That post vanished within the hour. Then, on Wednesday, Douglas himself showed up at my front door. He wanted to talk man to man. I didn't even let him pass the threshold. He tried to claim Jessica came on to him because he's powerful, but I told him the texts, the ones with the company metadata, proved otherwise. He actually asked me if I wanted money to make it go away. I told him I didn't want a dime, but his wife certainly did. He lost it and tried to swing at me, missed by a mile, and ended up screaming on my porch until the neighbors called the cops. Getting an assault charge in the middle of a divorce? Not his brightest move. It's been a couple of weeks since D-Day, and the fallout has been massive. Douglas is done. Eleanor didn't just leave him. She dismantled his entire life. She uncovered years of covered-up affairs, misuse of client money, and even tax evasion. The state bar is all over him, and the IRS is auditing his life. His name isn't even on the firm's door anymore. Jessica isn't doing much better. She's blacklisted in the legal world because Eleanor has a lot of influence. She had to move back in with her parents and even tried to start a GoFundMe, claiming she was a victim of workplace abuse. It raised about $47, all from her mom. She sent me an 8-page handwritten letter begging for a second chance. I just marked it "Return to Sender" and sent it back. Monica reached out too, not to defend her sister, but to apologize. It turns out their mom found Jessica's diary, and she'd been planning this for over a year. She'd even researched what she could get from Douglas in a divorce before she even moved in with him. Talk about karma. Now, 2 months later, things are finally quiet. I'm doing okay. I've started therapy to deal with the trust issues. It's hard not to feel a bit messed up when the person you shared a bed with for 4 years calls you pathetic behind your back. But I've reclaimed my space. I repainted the house, tossed the furniture she liked, and finally joined that woodworking class she always mocked as low class. Believe it or not, Eleanor and I grab coffee once a month. We're just two people who got burned by the same two narcissists. She's doing great. She even started her own firm helping women through divorces. Douglas, on the other hand, is living in a tiny studio, driving a junker because his Tesla got repossessed, and dating a 22-year-old who doesn't realize he's broke. The last thing I heard from Jessica was an email with a photo of us at the beach from 3 years ago. She wrote, "This was real. I know I ruined it, but this was real." I didn't reply. What would you do in this situation? Would you ever be able to look at that photo and feel anything but the betrayal? I just deleted it and went back to my workshop. Case closed. Maybe that beach trip was real for me at the time. But those texts, seeing how she dragged my name when she thought I'd never find out, that was real too. That was the woman behind the mask, and honestly, that's the version I'm sticking with. I didn't even bother replying to that last email. I just blocked the address and moved on. My buddy Anthony told me she's been poking around, asking if she has any legal claim to my house, since she crashed there for 2 years. The answer is a hard no. But the fact that she's still trying to squeeze a payout after everything just proves I was right about her all along. People keep asking if I regret blowing the whole thing up. They wonder if I should have just let her walk away and moved on quietly. Honestly, not a single regret. She made her bed, and so did Douglas. They both thought they were the smartest people in the room, that they could just use people as stepping stones and discard them whenever they saw something shinier. They thought they were untouchable. They were wrong. Real revenge isn't about some crazy, elaborate scheme or a dramatic showdown. It's just the simple truth. I didn't have to invent anything. I just pulled back the curtain and let the world see who they actually were. They did the rest of the damage to themselves. Eleanor said something to me last week that really stuck. She said they didn't just cheat on us. They cheated themselves out of good lives with people who actually gave a damn about them. We're going to recover. We're going to find something better. But those two, they'll spend the rest of their lives knowing they had something genuine and traded it for a cheap illusion. I'm not back in the dating pool yet. I'm nowhere near ready for that. Right now, I'm just doing the work on myself, trying to figure out why I ignored the red flags for as long as I did. I need to understand why I was okay being someone's safe bet instead of their partner. Next time, if there even is a next time, I'm going to value myself enough to make sure the other person does too. For now, I'm just keeping my head down. I'm focusing on my job, my woodworking, and rebuilding the guy I used to be. It's slow going, but it's progress. Somewhere out there, Jessica is probably already hunting for her next meal ticket, and Douglas is likely crying into a beer telling his bartender girlfriend how his evil ex-wife took everything. They're stuck in the same old patterns, never realizing they're the ones who built their own hell. Me? I'm free. I'm a little bruised and definitely a bit broken, but I'm free. And for right now, that's plenty. To anyone out there going through this kind of betrayal, just know it does get better. It's slow and it hurts like hell, but the truth really does set you free. What did this story teach you? For me, the lesson was clear. Don't be afraid to stand up for the truth. And seriously, always check who's still logged into your iPad.